Happy New Year's. By the time you see this podcast, it will be 2026. We will have traveled forward in time. And Prashanth has graciously accepted our invitation to be here on the show and talk about all things leadership related, especially in the technology world. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me here. And Happy New Year to everybody listening.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. So the first question, as always, is how did you get started in leadership? Like, what was the beginning part of that journey for you?
So I started the company when I was 27-year-old. So I really did not know what leadership was. But uh, in high school and all, I have played cricket, which is like a team sport and stuff like that. So I was kind of exposed to leadership on some level. But I never really looked at leadership as something that you have to learn, like whatever you have, and stuff like that. But once the company was started, I started as a single guy company. And then as people came on, uh, like you can't just be a leader without really learning lot of skills. Like some of it is
Definitely.
inherent, and some people are lucky enough to born with all the skills required, but there is a huge journey.
Yep.
So as and how the number of people increased in the company, and I understood there were a lot of gaps which I have to understand to be a better leader. So thankfully to InnoStacks, it actually helped me with the sandbox which was required for me to go through my leadership journey. I'm still traveling,
Nice.
and there's a lot, still a lot more to go.
Very cool. That's kind of amazing that, you like, number one, had the courage to start a company, right, in your 20s. That's awesome. But also the self-awareness to go, oh, I need to learn some skills. Like, that's huge. So congratulations. Um, eh, I don't always hear that, you know. People think they're just born, they think that there's just whatever you're born with. And I totally agree with you. It's all about learning skills and continuously going, oh, wait a minute, what's the new skill I need for whatever? About how big are you guys right now?
We are 85 engineers right now in Delhi.
Nice. Yeah. That's take some time. And have you built layers like into the company? They can't all report directly to you.
There is like a full organization structure. Like
Nice.
I am the CEO, and I have like a 4 people exec team. And
Hmm.
then there are engineering managers that report to the exec team. And then there are team leads in the structure. And then there are the individual contributors who kind of report to the team leads.
Nice. Yeah, that's a nice like pyramid structure. Yeah, that totally makes
Yes.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Like, as you were jumping into your journey, what were some of the things that you recognized were skills that you needed to get better at?
The first skill I think is emotional regulation. Like
Hmm.
as a leader, uh, like as a person, like we are early on, we are taught by the society that everything what you hear, it's something about you, even if it is not about you. And everybody is going through their own journey, and so there's a lot of noise in communication and stuff like that. And so emotional regulation comes from being able to separate that signal from noise. And as a
Hmm.
leader, that is even bigger, because you are supposed to be the guy who is actually understanding the source rather than the noise that is coming from people when it comes to you.
Right.
Otherwise, you are just 2 people conversing, and then you're not a leader. So early on in the journey, and we are in a services industry, right? We are people business at the end of the day. So we are dealing with people problems, is what how people would put it. But
Hmm.
problem is like we were dealing with understanding problem, like where somebody is saying like, oh, this is not good, like you tend to hear that I am not good, like what I did is not good enough and stuff like that. So to able to separate that from what the actual guy is feeling, and like being able to separate yourself, your ego from the
Right.
problem, I think is the first important piece which I had to learn, which I'm still learning. And that brought me into Advait, the Eastern philosophy of, being the witness to your emotions and being able
Yes.
to observe them, how it is going. So that actually was a very big skill that has helped me.
I like that. What did you say it's called?
Advait philosophy.
Adwest. Oh, I have not heard that before. Is it, what is it grounded in?
So it is grounded in stillness. So all these philosophy, all roads lead to inner stillness. If you look at it, like if
Mhm.
you have heard of Eckhart Tolle,
Yep.
like the stillness, and like it is more around like you have acquired the conditioning, the ego, as you are
Sure.
living through your life. And so anything that comes to you, you are processing based on your own inner experiences and stuff like that. And your body is the one that responds first. And like
Mhm.
you feel anger because of something, you feel something inside. And that is what triggers and makes you react in the way you have to react. So now when you separate your consciousness from your feelings of the body, and you're able to observe your body, and instead of feeling like I am angry, my body is feeling angry, and now you're observing what is it that caused it, and naming it itself will kind of take away lot of emotions. Like in scientific terms, it is like when you try to name that emotion, it moves from your limbic system to your prefrontal cortex, and now
Yep.
you are more logical than just the raw emotions flowing out. So that's what it all is grounded in.
I like that. There's a term metacognition from the psychology world it's exactly what you're talking about. It's thinking about our thinking
Right.
and having that witness perspective and the um, kind of that critical thinking that you're talking about, which is so valuable because yeah, we get hooked in things people say, and then our emotions get in the way of us hearing them. And that's awesome that you figured that out. That's like seriously, like props to you because most people don't figure that out. And and because we don't talk about it, you know? We talk about how do you optimize algorithms, but we don't talk about how do people optimize their own heads nearly enough. Um, yeah, I like that. That's good. That's good.
So I would not like to take credit for that, Bill, because I think what I have seen is like, so I have read one statement, like how do you kind of work towards this? Like, so there was apparently a wisdomous sage who's like this again. They are all stories. They come from somewhere, right? That uh, the disciple asked him, like, how do I drop all this? Then the sage apparently threw a hot coal at him and said, catch this. And when and when he could not hold on, he just dropped. So a similar incident happened in my life. Like 3 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with cancer,
Oh my goodness.
and she's fine now. She's
Okay.
luckily
Oh, good.
we were very lucky that way. So she's fine. But during that time, like we were losing clients, and my with my wife's health and all. Before that phase, I always thought I was in control. I was so smart that I have planned out everything so well in life, and that was my hot coal. That is where I realized like something is off. Like, why, if I planned something so well, like I planned my life so well, why is everything falling apart? That is when I like dropped my hot coal, and that is when I realized like I there's something missing. I have to like improve on this, and that made me like read a lot of books in that. Then I have a coach who helps me kind of like realize on these kind of principles and stuff, and that made everything like insanely better. The company, my personal well-being, and obviously like trying to like chasing velocity over speed. Like earlier, the sense of urgency was a big thing. Now, like what I've realized is it is more about removing parts of yourself than increasing, adding something to yourself. And
Yes,
that
yes.
actually was a huge turning point.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that, and it's interesting how, you know, the things that happen in our lives can 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 be such an excellent trigger for um our own advancement. Yeah, yeah. That's thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the reason that we do this is just to normalize experiences because, like the stuff that you're talking about, people don't share that stuff enough to have people be comfortable in those conversations, and yet they're so important to have out there. Yeah.
They are the most important things, Bill. I think everybody is living some really great experiences, and
Hmm.
everybody has a feeling that they are the only one going through it. But like I feel like we are not very unique as humans. Like we are so predictable. Like if you go back to Freud, if you go back and read any of the psychology books, it is like, okay, if I say this, Bill is going to react this way, and then you say this, then he's going to react this way. So if we are so predictable, what's so unique about it? Like you're not
Right.
really unique.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
so when you hear somebody's experiences and when you realize that, right, that takes such a huge burden of uniqueness from your head, and that itself is so relieving, you know. And one thing what I've realized with Advaita and stuff, like what it kind of points towards is like the moment that we are having any time in our life is basically a product of sequence of billions of years of evolution. Like
Hmm.
we were forged in the stars, right? Like all the elements that we are made out of, we are forged in the stars. But we sitting here and thinking, God, it is so cold over here, when they took like billions of years to manifest, is like our preference that we are trying to push on to something which we have no control over. So
Right. Right.
reality is reality, but how you feel about it is optional. So that is where the suffering comes from. And when in the leadership part of it, when you accept that, okay, this uh, moment in front of me is a product of billions of years of evolution or billions of years of cause and effect, and it has nothing to do with me. When it takes off the burden, the clarity comes. Like that is the most powerful kind of a thing where you say, okay, it is what it is. I say it so often that my 3-year-old now, like randomly she says stuff like, it is what it is. Like something happened and she just yelled in the car saying it is what it is. And my wife looking at me, see what you're doing to the kids.
That's that's awesome though, because in the grand scheme of things, their ability to adapt and be curious and learn in the world and not get stressed is going to be dramatically improved. And
Right.
that's a huge win because so many people, they think they're victims of life, and 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 rather than, it's happening, it is what it is, and what's the gift here, and I tend to think about, what's the upside of this, like there's always a win in struggle, whether you recognize it or not. um I caught part of a lecture today from a college prof who was talking about entrepreneurship, and she was talking about the entrepreneur's journey and the start, and this squiggly up and down and then the end, and she's like, you can't get from the start to the end without all the middle stuff. And so if you're an entrepreneur right now and it sucks and you're in the middle, like that's the game you signed up for. Like you should really appreciate it because it's the
Right.
learning that's going to get you to the end. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a good visual. And people they don't think about it enough. They get their heads so wrapped around the end state. And yeah, I like that. I like that.
So
Spirituality and engineering leadership. That's a great combo. Yeah.
so my view on this is like whenever things seem hard, right?
Mhm.
Easiest thing is to visualize the, like, again, heuristics, like what happened in the past which felt very hard, and see what it got you. Like all the bad things that happened in the past got you to something really better.
Right.
And so that actually makes you realize, so this is also taking me somewhere better. I just don't know it yet. And that
Exa
itself is so comforting. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. That's a really that is a really wise perspective to have. I love that. And the way you said that was beautiful. That was like, I'm gonna have to clip this out and have it be like a soundbite from the podcast. That's because you're totally right. Like, and people don't. It gets funny, like I've had people ask me, like, "Oh, if you, look back on your life, what would you have changed? What would you have wanted to not experience?" And my answer has always been, "Well, I really want to experience everything because even the bad stuff I learned so much from that it was painful in the moment, yes, and it was an investment, and here's the ROI of it." And that's exactly what you're talking about, and I think it's such a great perspective to have. Do you talk to your 85 developers about that? Like, do you talk
uh,
to the rest of your team about this?
Not really. Because what I've seen is like it is everybody's personal journey. And if somebody is not ready to listen to it, somebody does not feel that perspective, right? It feels like not something which people are interested to listen to. And like
Mm,
lot of devs on my team are pretty young and stuff. They're still enjoying the feel, and so we'll have to wait for them to have that coal to be hot enough so that they are ready to drop it. So I talk about this to my leadership team, though, we are going through this journey together,
sure.
and all that. So whenever we discuss some things, I bring out these analogies when there are problems and stuff, and
Right,
that is
right,
where that's where the most impact for it is. So I don't like bring it as part of a training or anything, but use these analogies to solve problems and bring perspective to the people that are having that problem.
right, right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I tend to, I'm I I tend to be a lot more, 'cause I haven't had 20 somethings on my software team in a while, um, but, yeah, I tend to be more proactive about training, um, I tend to think very systematically about it. Um, I Philosophically, I'm totally stealing this perspective, from the US military, because the 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 promotion, structures in the US military are very predictable. You learn a bunch of you know what your next level is. You learn a bunch of skills that you'll need to be proficient at that level, and you practice them a bunch until people recognize you know what you're doing well enough that we can now give you the title and the responsibility. Um, and so I'm always thinking about, okay, what are the skills I need to teach these people so that they can get better at what they're doing? Um, I love that emotional resilience. What's another skill?
uh, the other skill is, I think, from a leadership perspective, I feel is the ability to hold multiple perspectives at once for decision making, not just your own. Uh, so, like, when you say leader, right? Like everybody is discussing multiple things, but
Hmm.
as a leader, the responsibility of the decision falls on you. But at the same time, the responsibility of consequence also lies with you. So, so
Yeah. Yep.
So one thing what I observed is when I started off my career, I joined McAfee. I was a developer on a 14, 15 something team.
Mhm.
So with my perspective back then, like nobody thinks their perspective is limited, right? Like that is the beauty of it. Like everybody thinks they know exactly what is going on. So as a young guy, I had a feeling that okay, my manager is not doing enough. Clearly, he doesn't know what he's doing. Me, on the other hand, who has just joined the team, exactly understands what is the right thing he should have been doing for better efficiencies and stuff. So now with the younger guys on the team and they bring up some issues and stuff like that, like I realized like this was me. And
Yes.
that I feel pretty like I actually wrote a LinkedIn post about it one day when I heard one thing which one of our guys said, how like my perspective has changed when I sit on the other side of the table. The thing is, perspective is right, but the problem is they don't know the constraints. They don't know the second order effects that will come from their decisions and all that.
Yes.
So as a leader, it is very important to be able to hold multiple perspectives at once, like
Mhm.
and kind of switch from one persona to the other before kind of coming up with a final thing.
Right,
And
right.
there is no like a perfect decision ever. So there are always like trade-offs versus and stuff. So that is where you kind of have to optimize.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there is no perfect. Everything is just what's the consequences, you know? Yeah. What are the wins? What's the cost? What's the trade-offs? Um, what do we think is gonna be the best in this context going forward? Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Do you think that's a perspective that you get with, like, how much time do you think it takes to really start to wrap your head around that?
Um, I think there's no timeline as such, Bill. Again, like I think it is a upgrade. Probably it's an upgrade. It's a series of upgrades. Because the more it is, you're like an LLM at the end of the day. You are like a chat GPT
Yeah.
model. You're
Right,
only
right,
limited by the information that you can process and kind of create your model on. And you're living your life and you're constantly getting more information and updating your
right,
models.
right, right,
So I think we are not very different from ChatGPT, and you're only limited by the information that you have, and you're constantly absorbing more information, so you're constantly upgrading. And so
right.
I don't
Yeah.
think you are ever perfect, like ChatGPT is. You hallucinate based on the data that you have and all that. Yeah,
But my hallucinations are true. Come on.
that's that's what ChatGPT says as well. Until you give it more information, and then it says, "Oh, I'm sorry,"
Right, right.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it corrects
Yeah,
itself.
that's hilarious. That's so funny to think of that we're just another LLM, that and yeah, and the growth mindset that you're talking about is such a it's such and I'm kind of militant about growth mindset. Like I'm always like you're talking about the LLM gaining. I'm always thinking, what is it that I don't know that I don't know? You know, what's my double blind? Or what is it that I know that's 100% wrong? Like, you know, either one of those, right? Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to quote you that you were just LLMs because that's a really good metaphor. I really like that. Um, that's very cool. Yeah, yeah, good. That's a good thinking. Um, are there any other skills you can think of that were like, oh, I need to, or ones that you came into it with that you thought, oh, this is actually really easy because you already had that particular skill, worked out from playing cricket?
So more than that, I think one skill which is kind of understated, Bill, and you mentioned the growth mindset part of it. So my journey, what I have seen is like, uh, while I started off with the life coach or the coach that I have who helps me still. He helps me. I meet him once a week and all that. So first time when I went, and spoke to him. Like, I was obviously a very confident guy, semi-successful with whatever small success I had in life, and he's telling me things, and I was like, I had explanation for everything. Like, I knew exactly why I was doing it. Then now, if I were to go, he's a very kind guy, and I think he handled it perfectly well. He listened to me and everything, and like, now if I look back at that conversation, if I was the other guy, I would have said, like, then why are you here? If you knew everything in the world, then why are you here? Why do you want to talk to me? That guy, he said, Prashant, fine, it's all good what you're saying. I want you to read a book. And he gave me a book called Mindset. I'm sure you might have read it as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
book is called Mindset.
yeah.
So I think that is the first door towards
Mm,
leadership or any growth. Like, when I started reading it, the book is talks about only one principle: whether you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. That's about
right.
it. And whatever it was describing, I could not think of myself anybody except a guy with a fixed mindset. He was describing me all along, and that actually changed. So, is this who I am? And it doesn't sound right.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
is like, you watch a movie, everybody wants to be the hero of the movie, but all your traits are kind of projected and onto an antagonist. You don't like it,
Right.
like, oh god, I buy that. So that is what happened with that book for me, and that changed something. That basically cracked that hard shell of a person
Mm,
thinking who that was. Then I
nice.
was ruminating one day, thinking, like, why is I so sure about it? Now it feels like I clearly did not know what I was doing, but why was I so sure? Then it made me think, like, see, so I come from a middle class family, and my dad used to work at another company and stuff like that, and it was a decent journey and all. But I got to a place where I thought was the definition of whatever success based on my childhood, and I got there using the skills that I have. So now I can't question my skill or my own mindset because it got me over there.
Right,
But
right.
to realize what got me over there will not let me go further is that crack. So
Yeah.
that is where I think is the most important skill set. And all the great changes came after I realized that I have a fixed mindset and I need to have a
Mm.
growth mindset. That is when I started listening more and speaking less. And that opened up the LLM for better data and better experiences, is how I'd put it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's such a good metaphor. I like that, and I love that. You had the humility, right, to go, oh my goodness, there's this thing that I want, but I'm not really there yet, right? Um, and yeah, and wanting to I mean, to me, having growth mindset's really the big win in life. Um, and there's so many different facets of a growth mindset. In so many different arenas, and I think when I see people they're stuck and they're frustrated and they're not achieving what they want, part of what I hear from them is that they're not they're not going after that piece of knowledge that they're missing. They're not recognizing the growth mindset as valuable, and so they're expecting a result that they don't have the skills for. You know? Yeah, yeah, very cool. I like it. Um, do you guys have systems for you've got some really good perspectives here, right? Um, I'm going to go back to asking this, like, how do you get people ready for promotion inside the organization?
Uh, so we are still evolving, Bill. Like, we are kind of still working on like a proper, career journey for people and all on what, like US military is like a organization that has been there for a very long time.
Yeah, yeah,
It has
yeah, yeah.
evolved and all. So we are a 12-year-old company. but we
Mhm.
are still evolving. So one thing what we actually do is like the principle is still the same. Like a person has to be ready for the role, like in the sense the person should be already doing the role that he needs to be promoted to.
Mhm.
Like you
Yep.
cannot promote a guy and then expect him to kind of fall in into the role.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that first principles is being followed. And so how we try to do this is like we are obviously a growing company, and
Mhm.
whenever we need somebody to step up into a leadership role, we need to identify people who are doing really good. So what we have kind of created a structure for is like a rewards and recognition framework. So every month, all the teams that we have the team leads who will be recommending uh, people who report to them for the awards that we have. Like it's like the star of the month, or like who like was the client hero, and we have like a set of awards. So when people are nominated, right, like, and obviously we choose one person who is the best, but behind the scenes what ends up happening is, as leadership team, we are exposed to the people who are the next set of leaders for us, who are
Mhm.
stepping into that role and who are kind of going and beyond. So the next set of leaders are chosen. So when you say leaders, leadership is again like uh, is like a series of things. Like a CEO is a
Right.
leader, CTO is also a leader, an engineering manager is also a leader. So based on whatever their scale is, like they step into that role,
Right.
and
Right.
that is the framework that we follow for kind of
Nice.
growing the company.
Cool.
And one one framework that I that we use in the company is like you make the best decisions when you are disconnected from the problem, right? Like when you look at objectively, like an outside person is better at solving your problem because he's not attached to your problem. So when you
Right.
talk to somebody, they give you the perspective. So I going through this Advaita and things, I was able to kind of like somehow work on this. I got the space to work on this, but not everybody has that space. So I had to come up with a framework which helps people to make that decision. So from my office, we can actually see a board of a different company, which is like in some other building and all. So
Mhm.
we created a framework that whenever we are going to discuss about something, we are not going to discuss about InnoStacks. We are going to discuss about that particular company's problem. So when me and my CTO we are discussing, CTO says, I have said this to so many times to these people, they don't listen. Sometimes it comes out right, and then it's like we are never discussing. InnoStacks has no problems. There are no problems to discuss in InnoStacks. So tell me
Nice.
about that company.
Right.
So you're
Right.
telling me the CTO of that company told the guys to do something and they're not able to do it. What do you think is the problem? Then he was like, but I said, it's not your problem. He said, I think CTO has not communicated it properly. That's the problem. And so that framework, so we have like, so let's call it Acme. So we
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
okay, what is going on in Atakme? And that has helped like take decision making to a very different level in the company.
Yeah. I like it.
That's the framework. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really that's really smart because it's the hot seat is not here in the house, right? You're it's kind of the whole, you know, the witnessing of, but you're sticking the problem over there and being dispassionate about it. And I really like that. Yeah. That's a that is a very good it's a very good leadership perspective to be able to have that. And and I'm a huge fan of critical thinking, which requires you to be able to step back a bit and look at the problem. That's very cool. Yeah.
It
You're
definitely has changed perspective.
yeah,
It
yeah,
it definitely helps. We have seen that for sure. Like
yeah. I like that. Again, I'm probably gonna quote you, so yeah, yeah. No, it's good because I like the way that you're framing it, you know, and and it gives your CTO the mental space to think about it differently. And that's always I found that's always super helpful to be able to to give people at whatever level space to really think about stuff and not be emotionally hooked into it.
Right.
That's the, like, that's the thing that I've always tried to do with all my teams is is get whatever emotions have been going on to be pulled out of the situation because humans think better when we're not stuck in fear,
Absolutely.
which is usually the thing. That's usually where we get hung up. And so if I can reduce everybody's stress load, then that's the win. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's
I
one
like
more
it.
side to it, Bill. What I've realized is like when somebody questions like why I did something what I did, right? Like there are people who ask like why do you want to do this and all.
Mhm.
Rather
Yeah.
than explaining, what I tell them is like, now you are in my seat and I am the guy who is questioning you. So let us say, okay, this is your decision. And then all you have to do is just ask about this. Okay, now I have this constraint. Okay, now I have this constraint which will happen. And like most of the time, like what I have seen is people kind of do not have bad intent. They just are
Mhm.
charged with emotions on like this guy should have done this or this guy should have taken this decision. But when as soon as you put them in your seat and your intent is right and you have an answer good intent for them, right? Eventually it comes down to, yeah, I think you have taken the best decision or whatever, but they end up giving you so much perspective from their side of the fence that you get to hold one more perspective for your leadership. At the same time, the other guy now is not resentful at all, and
Mhm.
they become an advocate of your decision making, and they become like the leaders that we have in the company. Whenever we have this discussion, and they become advocates, and they are the guys who are taking the InnoStacks culture forward, because this is how it goes towards. And they also realize that the leadership also, the exec leadership also does not have any bad intent. Their intentions are absolutely on point, but there are some constraints because of which these decisions have to be taken.
Right.
And one more thing, whenever we speak to our leadership team, what we say is like, see, there is no InnoStacks, there's no company. It's on paper. It doesn't even exist. It's just a figment of our imagination. For the people who report to you, you are InnoStacks. So behave like what InnoStack should be doing with them, rather than deferring
Mm.
everything to somebody. So now you are the people, you are the leader of your own people. You need to fight for them, not accept whatever the leadership is saying.
Right. Right.
Because at the end of the day, you are InnoStacks for them and they work for you, not for a
Yep.
figment of somebody's imagination. And that also helps.
Yeah. That's a really empowering perspective for a team lead. I really like that. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Yeah, because I mean, sadly, I've seen a lot of team leads who they don't have that perspective and they're not willing to fight for their teams. And then the individual contributors just don't work very well. They're not because they know and and they don't they don't trust that their efforts will be rewarded.
Right.
And in some contexts, they don't trust that they can actually speak openly.
Right.
Um, and for me, I always think about how do I maximize psychological safety for my team because I really want them like I never want them to think I'm the smartest guy in the room. I want because I only have my answers, right? Like I want that's why I have a team because they have better answers than I do on average. Um, and I want them to feel like they have better answers than I do all the time,
Hmm.
and if randomly I have a better answer at some point in time, I'm going to try and be very diplomatic about bringing it up. But, yeah, psychological safety is such a um, it's such a huge advantage when you can build it inside of a team. You get so much more out of your people. It's amazing.
it's a
Yeah.
difficult thing to achieve still. Like, frankly, I feel that even as Stacks, we are not there yet in terms of psychological safety. Like, it depends on your the person that you report to.
Mhm.
I feel it depends a lot on the personality of the person that you report to as well.
Right.
Like, yeah, like I feel the people who report to me have the psychological safety, but I'll be careful to say that that is carried across to the entire organization, because I was speaking to one of the team leads, and he's a very empathetic team lead, and he's very good with his people. So he gave me feedback saying that there are a lot of leads who look at this more as a power, the sword that they can yield.
Right.
They might kind of like use some frameworks here and there, but again, it comes down to individual empathy on how that person actually thinks.
Right.
Because
Right.
as the exec, you never have access to how they are thinking and all that. So we are trying to get some skip level meetings and all that, but still, as a leadership team, you are tend to trust the leader more than the individual contributor on some level, until there is enough noise from the individual contributors, and everybody is just trying to survive and do not want to get into trouble. So you never have enough information. So we are
Mhm.
trying to build that safety in, and we are trying to get some leadership training for our leads. And
Mhm.
like 2026 is like one of the things as leadership, what we have discussed is we will use 2026 to build our people and not just the company. Like,
Nice.
what we have realized is there are multiple layers in how companies form. Like, first, it is outcome driven. In the beginning, it has to be outcome driven. The client needs to get the value. In that case, like, collaterals are acceptable and everything. Then you go into process first, and then you go into people first. So now we are in
Right.
process first mode and not people first entirely. So we are slowly transitioning, and yeah, we actually got Great Place to Work certified as well. Like,
Oh,
so
nice.
we are way better than a lot of other companies.
Mhm.
But personal admission is, I don't think we are there yet. Like, there is a lot more space there to go, and we still like run like startups. So there's like a lot of mental pressure on our people. Yeah, the intent is good, so people see that, but again, there is a
Right.
lot more
Right.
room to improve for Stacks for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's having a system where you can um you can consistently across the board help people understand, to help the team leads understand how to improve the psychological safety of their people. Because
Mm.
when you have a systems approach to it, um, you can then everybody speaks the same language, right? It's
Mm.
kind of like
Right.
you guys probably have standardized QA processes,
Yes.
it's not like every engineer has their own QA or every team has their own process, right? And so everybody gets the same kind of language. You get economies of scale, but also if one team starts to bump into some kind of friction in their QA process, then they can talk to other people and go like, okay, what's going on? Why are we struggling and you guys aren't, right? And it's the same
Right.
thing with psychological safety. Um, systematizing it and having a shared language and getting the leads to all be um what's the word I want? Incentivized to operate the same way. It it takes the whole power dynamic thing and flips it around. Um
Right.
because they start to understand the value for themselves of executing on a servant leadership game plan. Yeah, yeah, it works really
So
well. Yeah.
what we're currently doing is every week, like, all the leads meet with our CTO and everyone, and it's like a round table thing
Mhm.
where people bring up the problems that they have on their team, and everybody discusses as a team to come up with what is the best approach, and that is kind of implemented. So we are a small team still, right? We have 8 to 9
Sure.
leads at the moment, so it's easy for us to all to get in a room and kind
Nice.
of discuss individually, and even the new policies that we think are necessary, we run it
Mhm.
by them. It is like our parliament in a way, and
Right.
so we kind of like veto through things. It's more around alignment with majority of the people, then the other people get convinced, and the motto of those meetings are either you convince me or I convince you, kind of a thing. And those things become like our process. So that
Mhm.
has
Yeah.
been helping a lot. Earlier it used
Yep.
to be the exec teams thinking that this is what is required for the company and kind of took it forward, but
Right.
that change has helped. Now what happens is
Good.
whenever somebody kind of uh, talks to the lead, they have the context, they have the reason, they have the intent, and that helps take policies the right way to everybody.
Right. Right. Yeah. I haven't seen um I haven't seen HR policies work as well as because the team leads can do very different things to help the people out in their because everybody's different, right? Like, you've got 7 individual contributors in a team, and they all have different things going on. It's really hard for HR to mandate a policy or set up policies that's gonna work across the board. Whereas the team lead can go, "Yeah, okay, you need this and you need this, and it's fine, and here's how we make it all work." Um, and the level of scale is just in the team rather than trying to have something like I was at a company where HR had put in some policies that before I got there, and the team that I inherited was not amused. um, let's put it that way.
Right,
Um,
right.
and it, I was like, okay, like what's friction? Like what's going on? And when they started talking about the policies, and I realized how HR was well intentioned, but they didn't really like they weren't getting the right feedback loop. And so I ended up going to them and going, look, I know you meant well, but um, but here's the consequences, right? Like, and they were like, oh, didn't we didn't know that. Like, that's a problem. And so they ended up just removing the policy completely. And
Mhm.
so then, we got to go, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to operate? Um, and every other team also had the freedom to do that. And so we made decisions for our team that worked great
Mhm.
for our team. They wouldn't have worked for the other teams, right? Because they have different stuff going on. And it comes down to what's the personal responsibility of the team lead um, to number one, as you said, fight for the team, right? Um, and to know how to go do that effectively. But also really to just understand that that's their game to play, right? Like that's really the thing.
So my perspective on this is like, again, this is an there is an institutional way of looking at it. Like,
Mhm.
even if you take uh, US government for example, there's a federal government and there is a state government.
Sure.
So there are few things that federal government takes care of, and rest the states have the flexibility to do what they want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
comes down to power. So what we have done is we have global policies across all the teams. And
Yep.
then there is like the work from home policy that we have. Like, we are
Mhm.
in office team. We don't have like a permanent remote or anything of that sort.
Yep.
But we definitely want to have work from home policy. But work
Mhm.
from home policy, if you are too mandating it, it won't work well, because what we see is, like, as a tech team and we are working for the client, and for us it is very dynamic. It's so we prefer, like, we, in the sense, at least the leadership and the main leadership, we prefer keeping it in office.
Mhm.
So when we
Mhm.
brought in the work from home policy, we gave the flexibility to the lead to decide who can take work from home and who cannot take work from home, because at the end of the day they are responsible for the outcome. So they should be the one
Right.
who are deciding. So I think what we have seen is, like, you cannot centralize all the decision making, obviously. Like,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
HR
Yeah.
trying to take a central decision for everybody does not work.
Yep.
60% can be central. I think 40% there should be autonomy with you know, fail safe for consequences, where you own the
Mhm.
consequences.
Yep. Yep.
And obviously, uh, psychological safety for the team leads also to make bad decisions. That everybody
Right.
makes bad
Yeah.
decisions. That's okay. If you fail, we'll
Yep.
we'll bring another policy which will fix it. And so that's how we are managing it for now.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. The getting the team leads to feel safe is one of those. I think it's an undervalued perspective. Like I don't think enough CTOs really think through how to make that happen. Um, and 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 I think in the long run, the team performance suffers for it. Because if you start to think about how do I do it, then you start thinking about okay, what systems do we put in place, and how do we approach things, and what are our mitigation strategies, and um, how do we have everything be like the conversations be, oh, you're taking a calculated risk. Okay, cool. What's the worst case scenario? You know,
Right.
um, and is that something like that everybody's okay with? You know, and
Right.
how do we get everybody to be good with it? And I think because early in my career, I worked for a founder who was really good at asking prompting questions that got me to talk about that stuff. And then I just started preloading every conversation that I had with him with things that I knew he was going to ask me anyway.
Right.
Um, and then the next company I went to, I did the exact same thing, and all of a sudden everything was easy. Like I'd go talk to the VP of Eng, and I'd be like, "Here's all the stuff," and he'd be like, "Oh, well, of course, yes," and it was super easy.
Right. Right.
Um, so I got to give props to that guy for uh, for being consistent in how he asked questions,
That's true.
and it was very much it was a excellent learning opportunity for me. I got to say, so it was cool. Yeah. Um, Any other Are there any questions that I haven't asked you that you think I really should? What have I
Mm.
forgotten to ask?
I don't think. I think everything comes down to one or two things, Bill. Like, it comes down to staying grounded and kind of understanding, you having empathy for your team. I think
Mhm.
it all any question that you ask will probably circle down to the same kind of question: the psychological safety and how the teams operate. So only thing I can add from the psychological safety standpoint is, like, any if something goes wrong, what we kind of first question what we ask is, what was the intent? What were you trying to do?
Yep.
So, and if the intent is good and the logic is sound, I think, like, one thing is, like, that problem comes down to me. I have to handle it one way or the other, because
Mhm.
everybody makes mistakes, kind of a thing. But if the intent is there, logical reasoning is not sound, then probably he's not a good fit for the job, and we probably over indexed on his ability to do something.
Ah,
So that
yes.
also gives us an idea, like, what we are supposed to do. And if intent is wrong, he's out. Like, that is, he's not supposed to be in the company. Like, he was trying
Yeah.
to do something which was not in good benefit. So that gives us a very strong decision tree in terms of
Mhm.
what you are doing. So people who have stayed with us longer, and, like, who have worked closely with and all, they understand this, so they take
Nice.
some decisions which actually help the company. But
Mhm.
that being said, again, like, I want to work on the communications piece also. What I feel is, like, whatever I'm talking to you, probably some of the ICs on my team might be, really, is that what they're trying to do? Because there are layers out there,
Yep. Yep.
and everything might not be translating directly to the
Yeah.
people it is supposed to. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I communication's huge, and that's definitely one of the things that when I started leading teams, I spent a lot of time working on my communication skills. and starting with getting over I used to have really bad social anxiety,
Okay.
and so my starting point was getting over my social anxiety
Right.
and figuring out how to do that in a way that was again a system. I built a system for getting over social anxiety
Right.
and um, and then for presenting, and now I like public speaking. So it's kind of one of those you work your way through the layers um, of where you're at to where you want to get to, and
Right.
work that growth mindset.
I've
That's
seen your podcast, Bill. Nobody can ever say that you ever had, speaking anxiety or public anxiety. And like the way you engage people and all, it is really amazing. You bring out a lot of information from people, like the way you
Thank
speak,
you.
the way you kind of warm with them and kind of give them the space to kind of do the creative thinking on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
So full disclosure, 25 years ago, I couldn't have done this. It was like not, yeah, yeah. I couldn't talk to strangers 25 years ago, and it was really rough. And um, there were two things that got me started. One was I started leading software teams, and the other thing was my older son was born, and I didn't want to be a role model like that where I had social anxiety.
That is
And
that is a huge motivation.
yeah, so I had two
Yeah.
big motivations, and I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. I got to figure out a way to do it. And a friend of mine kind of gave me this framework. Um, and I started off with 2-minute exercises where the crux was to go to Starbucks and and order a cup of coffee and then ask the barista how their day was going. And that asking how their day was going, like the first half a dozen times I did it, I was sweating when I walked in the door because that was so scary for me. And it sounds like crazy considering what I'm doing now, but at the time it was uh I did not know how long it would take me to stop sweating.
But what was the problem, Bill? Like, I mean, I understand this frameworks helps. It's
Yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah.
crutch until you can walk again. But what was the problem behind it?
So there was a couple parts to it. One of them was I had um it was a what do you call it? It was a recursive loop.
Hmm.
One of them I was afraid of what people would think of me,
Right, right, right,
right?
right, right,
And the second was I was afraid that I didn't know how to start a conversation,
right,
right? And so I wouldn't. And people probably thought I was arrogant and like wouldn't talk, you know?
right, right, right,
Um and and the weird thing is despite that, every now and then I would pop out and I would do something. Um and that would get me an amazing ROI, right? Um but to do it consistently is the challenge, right? Doing it once every 5 years, it isn't really helpful.
right, 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 right,
And I didn't wanna model that for my kids. And
right,
I
right,
knew that if they ever started struggling with social anxiety, I had to be able to give them a system that would help them that I could stand behind.
right, right,
And so both of my sons have had experiences when they went to bigger schools of being like, "Okay," and not knowing anybody, of being like,
right,
"Okay, dad, I don't know what to do." And I'm like,
right,
"Oh, here's the system. Here's how to go run it. Try it for a week. Let me know what happens."
right.
Um, and it worked really, really well for them. Um,
Hmm.
I just broke it down into, okay, this is what I'm afraid of. How do I, what do I have to do? Number one, emotional resilience. Like, how do I manage my brain chemistry?
Right,
Um, what are the skills I need to go to manage my brain chemistry so I can go and do this thing? And then how do I set up doing the thing to be as successful as possible so I can work past my fear? Because one of the things that I noticed is that um, reps, doing it over and over and over again, diminishes the fear over time. It's exposure therapy, right?
Right.
And so, the first time I walked into Starbucks to go run this recipe, I couldn't actually do it. Like I was so
Right.
afraid I couldn't do it.
Right.
And but I was like, okay, I walked in the door. That was the win, you know?
Right.
And then the next time I said, how's your day going? They said something. I have no clue because
Understood, obviously.
and I said, thank you very much. Hope the rest of the day goes well, which is the second part of the script. And then I walked out the door and I was like, oh my God, I actually did it. Yes. You know,
Right.
it's, cr- and then I did 15 more reps. Like every day I would go and do it. Um, and then it was easy,
Right.
but it took me 15 reps to get it to be easy. And then the next thing was 5 minute speed networking,
Okay.
and it was live events.
Hmm.
This way before COVID, right? There was lots of speed networking around here. And so I'd go to these 5 minute events. I knew how long it was going to last. It's 5 minutes. I wrote a script out in advance. So I had a list of questions to ask every person that I talked with. Um, and I think after like 3 events, I was like, okay, I got that down. Now let's go to 15-minute networking events. Um, and then I started learning how to do presentations.
That's
And
good.
yeah, and
That's
that was,
amazing, actually.
in parallel. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Um, and I learned, and I used my software team as my guinea pig audience. I told them, I said, look, I need to learn how to do presentations. Um, are you guys cool if like every meeting we ever have, I do a presentation as part of it? And they were like, "Yeah, okay, sure," until it gets to be like a problem. And it never got to be a problem. So that worked out. And then, after a few months of that, my VP started asking me to um, help with presentations he was doing, just providing content. And then he started asking me to present the stuff for my teams. And then he went on vacation one day and was like, "Oh, here, you get to do the whole thing." And so, I'm like, it's very iterative, right? It was like, you know, little steps. And so, uh, the hardest presentation was probably the first time I had to get up in front of the executives and just talk about my team.
Right.
Um, and, by the time I had to do the whole presentation, like I knew all these people and they were easy to talk with. And so it was just, oh, wait a minute. Now I've got everybody else's slides,
Right.
you know, um, and I had to make sure that I understand everything, um, and I'm comfortable and that I practice it a bunch. And, kind of that was the next piece. Yeah. It's all building systems. Yeah. It's the way my
Your
head
growth
works.
is very your growth is where your fear is built. Like that's what I tell my team also. Like you should keep doing what you fear. And
Oh yeah.
to a person who does not understand that, it would feel like, okay, it's just talking to people. But the person who is going through it, it
Oh
is
yeah.
as
It's
close
yeah.
to hell as you can get to. Yeah. So
Yeah.
kudos on
And
that. That's a great transition.
yeah. And it's the balance of being uncomfortable but not terrorized,
Right,
right?
right,
You know,
right,
you
right,
you
right,
you've got to be able to um you have to be able to self-regulate your fear.
right.
And I do a lot of breath work to self-regulate my fear.
Mm.
Um and then like if it's something big and I'm like, oh, this is then I'm doing breath work, but also I make sure that I've eaten well beforehand. that I'm really well rested, that I know people there, and that combination makes it easier for me.
Understood.
Yeah.
For me, like I kind of try to close my eyes, like meditate, and
Mhm.
kind of try to understand, like why, like trying to disconnect and seeing like why does Prashant fear speaking so much? Like what are the thoughts that are actually going on? What are
Right.
the thoughts that get triggered when I imagine myself trying to speak to somebody? Like this is just another approach. Like framework
Mhm.
is always the best, Will, because it is like take this, do one, two, step two, three, four, then you kind of are at the you know, the outcome that you want to. Like it works best for 95% of the people out there. What
Sure.
I feel is like for myself, it has always been around like what is the core of the problem? What am I fearing? What are the thoughts? Then looking at
Mhm.
the thoughts and thinking like, okay, so do I fear being judged? Do I fear that I am not good enough? Do I fear? And it's always some voice in your head that you heard in your childhood, somebody tell you and you believed it.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
so you had to deduct all those things out of you because the bill that I'm speaking to is the real bill. It's not a created bill, right?
Right.
He was
Right.
just like clouded by all the thoughts that were created in his head from childhood. And somebody told Bill that when you're speaking, it's not good enough. And Bill believed it. And that is the biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's have you heard of Adlerian psychology?
you know,
Joseph Adler,
okay,
um, Joseph Adler was a contemporary of Freud,
okay,
and he his perspective was it was very much a growth mindset perspective.
right, right,
He
right,
was
right.
like, yeah, stuff happened to you in your childhood, but that doesn't define the rest of your life.
Right,
You build, you figure out where you want to go, and you what strengths you want to develop, and where you already have strength and where you're weak, and then you figure out how to move ahead there, right? And his perspective was very much not victim. So
hmm,
like
hmm, hmm.
everybody has some kind of negative stuff happen in their childhood.
Right, 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 right,
Some people don't learn how to do math well.
right,
Okay, you can still learn how to do math well, right?
right, 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 right,
Some people don't learn how to communicate well. You can learn how to communicate well, right? Some people don't grow up learning how to manage their emotions. You can learn that, you know? Um, it's all about the learning and the drive to go learn and how to improve your life. And for me, that resonates really, really well.
right.
Um, because it means that anything is possible. I have to put
Right.
energy into it, you know? So
Brain is
yeah.
just a bunch of neurons like forming every time. So you are
Right.
definitely not the person you are the next minute you have more information about something new. So we are
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
changing. We are transient. So like thinking about ourselves as a fixed being who is already like uh fully evolved is the
Exactly.
biggest limiter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. 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 You're just like full of words of wisdom. This is very cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
This has been good.
But
Yeah. Um,
yeah.
I just looked at the time and realized we're over. Um, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Like we are over because we are enjoying the conversation. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Well, yeah.
learning
Yeah.
like your journey and stuff, and which is really inspiring. Like I
Thank you.
see like
I
from
appreciate it.
and what age was it when you started going into Starbucks and trying to like
Oh, I was
fight your anxiety?
oh man, let's see. 38.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't get over my fear of public speaking till after I was 50.
Nice.
Yeah. Age is irrelevant. Yeah, I've decided that all this stuff about, age and the number, blah blah blah. I'm like, uh, either it's totally irrelevant or I've got some weird genetic freakiness going on. Um,
No,
because
no.
it's it, it just doesn't matter, you know.
The reason why I asked is like it gets harder as you age to kind of change something. Like changing yourself at 15 is way easier than changing yourself as 40. Like the neurons have already formed. Like if you look at the brain chemistry and all that, like the maximum number of connections are when you are as a child. That's why it's easier to learn new languages when you are a child. And then slowly what happens is the unnecessary neuron starts disconnecting, and that's how your adult life forms. Like that is the brain, the concept behind it. So
Sure,
when
sure.
changing at 38 is a very the quantum of effort that is required to kind of change is a lot higher. That tells me like something was like super strong, that you said enough is enough, I will change this. And that itself says that talks about the resilience. Like when changing at
Oh
38
yeah,
is not an easy feat.
yeah.
That's where I was getting it.
I, you know, I think with because neuroplasticity is a thing, I I believe that it's easy to change and evolve and learn.
Right,
And I think because I have that belief,
right.
it lubricates the process, right?
Obviously, yes,
Um,
100%.
and so it goes back to struggle, right?
Right,
Like the for me, the struggle is high value,
right,
and the win is in the struggle.
right,
And so, um, because like I'm learning, right? I'm pushing myself, and um, I like to push myself. I
right,
like to challenge myself, and I don't see that having gray hair or no hair means I need to stop that.
right,
You
right,
know,
right.
it's like, why not? It's like, there's a guy named Cameron Haynes who's he runs ultra marathons,
Okay.
and he's mid 50s, I think. And he's doing 100 plus mile running races, right?
Right, right,
For fun. Like,
right.
and his thing is, I need to push myself, and
Right.
I don't ever see that ending, you know? Um, and so, okay, maybe it takes me longer to learn whatever. There's probably other things I'll learn in the process of the struggle
Right,
that if it only took me a quarter of that time, I would never learn.
right,
Right. So I'm like, what are all the upsides of the investment in effort?
right, right,
Right. Right. So for me, it's like the whole game it's a win, you know?
right, right, right. No,
Yeah.
definitely. Last question for you, Bill.
Yeah.
Like, what is the new thing that you're working towards? Like, you worked on your public speaking skills, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
doing some amazing podcasts. Is there something
Thank you.
else that you are kind of pushing towards?
So there's two things I'm working on.
Right.
One of them is sales.
Okay.
Like I have to learn how to sell, right?
Okay.
The other thing completely different is I'm learning about farming.
Hmm.
Completely, yeah. So
You're
so I have this side project. It's a regenerative farm.
right.
It's a one of these days I'll be doing my podcast from there.
Okay.
Um, it's about 3 hours from here. It's still in California,
Okay.
and um, for multiple reasons, I decided number one, I love the area up there. We've been visiting. My girlfriend and I have been visiting there a bunch, and started talking about moving there.
Okay.
Um, and then we started learning about regenerative farming, and I was fascinated by the idea. And it kind of was like multiple pieces all lined up. I love the area. Every time I go up there, it's like beautiful and peaceful, and I'm inspired. Um, we bought a piece of land and had to build everything.
Okay.
And so I'm learning all these other skills along the way. So it's all these other struggles. Um, and by the way, most of them I suck at. So that's even, like more interesting. Um, but like that's, I'm learning carpentry and how to build fences and
You're
cement
amazing, Bill.
work.
You're
What's
you're
that?
amazing. Like you're amazing the way you think. Okay, now let me think of public speaking. Then suddenly carpentry. Let me do this. Like the diversification that you have is actually inspiring for me, because I'm good at one thing and I keep doing it. That like the breadth that you are going after, it's inspirational. I should think about some
Oh,
something
thank you.
completely out. Yeah, it's really good. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
it's it's what keeps me feeling balanced,
Okay.
you know? Like for the first 10 years of my software development career, my weekend hobby was windsurfing.
Okay.
And I and there's really good windsurfing here in the Bay Area.
Mm.
I would go windsurfing on the weekends and most days after work
Yeah.
because there was a place near to my office, right? Or I was mountain biking, one of the two, right? Like that was my thing. Um, and then it was surfing and rock climbing. And I,
Mm.
you know, that, um, and, uh, and now it's farming is the side, like I'm watching YouTube videos on how to build small buildings,
Okay.
you know, totally different.
I'll try to find something to do completely different from what I'm doing, and I'll share that with you, Bill. And I'll just email
That's
you about
beautiful.
it.
I
Yeah.
love it. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. We'll have to do a
Awesome.
podcast on that. We'll like totally.
100%. 100%. Anytime.
Yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Next time we do a podcast, I'll have to be up on the property so it'll be the backdrop.
I will
Yeah.
be the host. I will come prepared about stuff, and I would like to interview you. I think you have more insights to share than I have. You have done more
Okay.
things in life than I have.
Well, I've got a few more years than you. So, it's kind of been the way it's racked up. So this has been
Right.
awesome. Thank you.